The first drops of rain were turning into a steady shower when Sam heard something he didn't expect, cutting through the sound of the wind. Voices, young voices, carried on the breeze from somewhere down the trail behind him. He turned, looking hard through the growing darkness, and saw 3 small figures making their way along the dusty path. As they got closer, Sam could see them better. 3 children, none of them looking older than 14, walking like they knew these lonely trails well. They wore simple patched clothes, the kind of hand-me-downs that showed hard times and careful fixing. The oldest, a boy with sandy-colored hair sticking out from under a worn felt hat, carried a canvas bag over his shoulder. Beside him walked a girl with braided reddish-brown hair, her dress clean but faded from being washed many times. The youngest, a freckled boy who couldn't have been more than 10, skipped along beside them, not seeming to notice the storm coming. Sam's first thought was to be careful. Out here in this area, you learn to watch out for strangers, especially when you were carrying valuable things. But as the children got closer, he could see they were just that, children. Their faces were open and curious, not sneaky or dangerous. Still, what were kids doing out here alone, miles from any town? The oldest boy noticed the broken wagon first, pointing it out to his friends. They stopped about 20 feet away. The 3 of them huddled together as they looked at the scene. The well-dressed man, the expensive wagon tilted at a weird angle, and the scattered pieces of the wheel. "Mister," the sandy-haired boy called out, his voice showing real worry. "Looks like you're having some trouble there." Sam straightened up, brushing the rain from his vest. Up close, he could see that even though their clothes were worn, the children were clean and well taken care of. The girl had smart brown eyes that seemed to notice everything at once, while the youngest boy's face was bright with curiosity. "That's putting it nicely, son," Sam replied, his voice rough with frustration. "Wheel broke on me and I've got somewhere important to be." The girl stepped forward a little, studying the broken wheel with the kind of smart thinking that surprised Sam. "That's a bad break," she said, her voice soft but sure. "Spokes are all broken. You'd need a whole new wheel to fix that, right?" Sam nodded seriously. "That's what I figured. You children shouldn't be out here with a storm coming. Where are your parents?" The 3 looked at each other in a way that Sam couldn't quite understand. There was something there, not shame exactly, but a kind of quiet acceptance that showed they had learned hard lessons when they were young. "We're from St. Mary's in Silver Ridge," the oldest boy said simply. "Been in town doing some work for Dr. Henderson, helping him move supplies. I'm Jake. This here's Molly and the little one's Tommy, orphans." Sam felt an unexpected feeling of something. Not quite pity, but understanding. He'd been alone in the world once too, though not quite so young. These children were making their way in a hard world, with nothing but their smarts and whatever kindness strangers might show them. "Well, Jake, I'm Sam Crawford," he said, touching the edge of his hat. "I appreciate you stopping, but there's not much anyone can do about this wheel. You'd best get on to Silver Ridge before this storm really hits." Tommy, the youngest, had been studying the wagon with the strong focus that only children could have. Suddenly he spoke up. "Mr. Crawford, we helped fix a wheel for old Pete's cart last month when it broke down near the church. Molly's real good with tools." Molly gave the boy a warning look, but Jake was already nodding thoughtfully. "Tommy's right. We've done our share of fixing things around St. Mary's. Sister Margaret says we're pretty handy when we put our minds to it." Sam looked at the 3 of them. These small, unlikely helpers who'd appeared out of nowhere on this empty trail. Common sense told him that children couldn't solve a problem that had him stumped, but something in their honest faces made him pause before saying no to their offer. Jake set down his canvas bag and walked around the broken wagon, his young eyes studying the damage with surprising skill. "We'll need to find something to use as a lever to lift the wagon," he said, his voice sounding confident like someone who'd solved problems before. "And we'll need wood for a makeshift wheel." Sam watched in amazement as the 3 children right away went to work with the speed of an experienced team. Molly knelt beside the broken wheel, sorting through the broken spokes and looking at the metal rim that had somehow stayed in one piece. Her small fingers traced the curved iron, checking for cracks or weak spots. "The rim's still good," she said. "If we can find enough straight wood and something to tie it with, we might be able to make something that'll hold long enough to get you to town." Tommy had wandered off the trail and was already dragging dead branches back toward the wagon. "There's lots of good wood over by those rocks," he called out, his young voice bright with excitement at the adventure. "Some of these pieces are real straight." Sam stood there for a moment, shocked by how quickly they were willing to help. "Now, wait just a minute," he began. "I can't ask you children to—" "You didn't ask," Jake interrupted with a smile. "We offered. Besides, Sister Margaret always says, the good Lord puts us where we're needed and seems like you need us right about now." The rain was falling harder now, but the children paid it no mind. Molly had pulled a small but well-kept knife from her pocket and was already peeling bark from the branches Tommy had collected, testing each piece for strength and straightness. Jake had found a sturdy piece of dead wood that could work as a lever. "Mr. Crawford," Jake said, putting the makeshift lever under the wagon's axle, "we're going to need you to help us lift. On the count of 3, you push down hard on this end while Tommy and I get the wheel in position." Sam found himself following the boy's instructions, amazed at how naturally Jake had taken charge of the situation. As they worked, the children talked easily among themselves, their teamwork showing countless hours spent solving problems together. Molly worked with amazing skill, using strips of leather from Jake's bag to tie the wooden spokes to the metal rim. Her fingers moved quickly and surely, making tight knots that would hold under pressure. "This won't be pretty," she said, wiping rain from her face, "but it'll get you where you're going." "Where'd you learn to do that?" Sam asked, really impressed by her work. "Sister Margaret says, 'Idle hands are the devil's workshop,'" Molly replied with a small smile. "She's got us learning all kinds of useful things. Jake's best with animals, so I'm good with fixing things, and Tommy here can climb anything." Tommy smiled big at the praise, then climbed up onto the wagon to help guide the makeshift wheel into place. Even though he was small, he moved with confidence and skill, positioning himself to help steady the wheel as the adults lifted. The makeshift wheel was rough but useful. Wooden spokes tied to the metal rim with leather strips. The whole thing strengthened with extra tying around the center. It wouldn't win any prizes for good work, but it looked like it might actually hold together. "All right, let's see if this works," Jake said, stepping back to look at their work. The 3 children had worked for nearly an hour in the rain, their clothes now completely soaked, their hands muddy from handling the wood and leather. Sam tested the wheel carefully, putting his weight on it slowly. To his amazement, it held strong. The leather ties made a creaking sound under the weight, but the structure stayed solid. "I'll be darned," he said quietly, then caught himself begging your pardon for the language. Tommy giggled. "We've heard worse from old Pete when his mule gets stubborn." As Sam hitched Thunder back to the wagon, he felt a mix of thanks and confusion. These 3 orphan children had done in an hour what he'd been certain was impossible. They'd worked without complaining in the rain, using nothing but scraps and cleverness to solve his problem. The makeshift wheel turned smoothly as he gave it a test spin. It would hold. He was certain of it. Sam straightened up from testing the wheel, rain dripping from the edge of his hat as he looked at the 3 children who had just done what felt like a miracle. Their clothes were soaked through, their hands dirty from working with the rough wood and leather. Yet all 3 wore looks of quiet happiness at a job well done. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a leather wallet thick with bills. These weren't just any children who had helped him. They were orphans, kids who probably had never seen more than a few cents at a time. The least he could do was make sure their kindness was properly rewarded. "Now then," Sam said, his voice warm with thanks, "I can't let you young folks go without a reward for this." He pulled out several crisp bills, more money than most adults in Silver Ridge saw in a month. "This should be enough to buy you some proper clothes and maybe a good meal or 2. Jake took a step back, his eyes wide as he saw how much money Sam was offering. "Mr. Crawford, that's an awful lot of money. It's what you've earned," Sam said firmly, holding the bills out toward them. "You saved my business deal, maybe my whole reputation. This is the least I can do." But to his amazement, Jake shook his head firmly. "We can't take that, sir. We didn't help you for money." Molly nodded in agreement, wringing rainwater from her braid. "Sister Margaret always says that when you help someone, you do it because it's right, not because of what you might get back." Sam stared at them in disbelief. In his world, everything had a price. Every favor came with expectations. Every act of kindness had strings attached. Men helped him because they wanted something in return. Contracts, power, connections. Yet here were 3 children who had worked for over an hour in the rain, solved an impossible problem, and were refusing payment. "But surely you need," Sam began, then stopped himself. He was about to say they needed the money, but something in their proud refusal made him think again about his words. Surely St. Mary's could use the donation. Tommy spoke up for the first time since they'd finished the repair. "Sister Margaret says we got everything we need, food, beds, and each other. She says being greedy for more is what makes folks unhappy." Sam felt something strange stirring in his chest, a mix of humility and something else he couldn't quite name. When was the last time someone had done something for him without wanting anything in return? When Eleanor was alive, perhaps, but she'd been his wife. These were strangers who owed him nothing. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "You're orphans. You must need things, clothes, books, maybe something special you've been wanting." Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked older than his years. "Mr. Crawford, we got what we need in helping you." Well, that felt good. Made us feel useful, like we matter. "You do matter," Sam said, surprised by the feeling in his own voice. "What you've done here. I've never had anyone refuse payment for good work before." Molly stepped forward slightly, her brown eyes serious. "Maybe that's because most folks are doing work, not helping. There's a difference." The rain was coming down harder now, and Sam knew he needed to get moving if he was going to make his meeting. But he found himself not wanting to leave these amazing children. They had given him something more valuable than a repaired wheel. They'd reminded him that goodness still existed in the world without strings attached. "Hey partner, give me a favor. If you're riding with us this far, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps more travelers to find this channel." All right, back to the story. The 3 children looked at each other, and Jake nodded gratefully. "That'd be mighty kind of you, Mr. Crawford. We'd appreciate that." As they climbed into the wagon, Sam couldn't help but marvel at what had just happened. He was used to being in control, used to paying for what he needed and getting what he paid for. But these children had turned that world upside down, showing him a kind of giving he'd forgotten existed. The makeshift wheel held steady as they began moving down the muddy trail towards Silver Ridge. But Sam's thoughts weren't on the upcoming meeting anymore. They were on 3 orphan children who had just taught a wealthy rancher something priceless about the true meaning of kindness. The wagon rolled steadily through the rain toward Silver Ridge, the makeshift wheel holding true. Even with the muddy conditions, Sam found himself stealing glances at his 3 passengers, who sat quietly in the wagon bed, seeming content despite their soaked clothing. They didn't complain about the cold or the discomfort. They simply watched the land pass by with the kind of patient acceptance that showed lives lived without luxury. "So you children do odd jobs around town?" Sam asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "Doc Henderson pays us to help move supplies and clean his office. Mrs. Patterson at the general store sometimes needs help stocking shelves. Nothing too fancy, but it keeps us busy and helps St. Mary's with expenses." Sam nodded, doing quick math in his head. The kind of work these children talked about would earn them pennies. Yet they just refused more money than they probably saw in a year. It didn't make sense. Not in his world, where every decision was measured against profit and loss. As they got close to the edges of Silver Ridge, Sam could see the modest buildings of the town coming into view. The church steeple rose above the other buildings, and beside it stood a simple 2-story building that must be St. Mary's home for children. It looked well kept but humble. the kind of place that survived on donations and goodwill rather than wealth. "That's our home," Tommy said proudly, pointing to the orphanage. "Sister Margaret's probably wondering where we got to." Sam pulled the wagon to a stop in front of St. Mary's, and the children climbed down with quick thanks. He watched as they hurried through the rain toward the front door. Jake carrying their canvas bag, Molly helping Tommy get around a puddle. Just before they reached the entrance, Jake turned back. "Good luck with your meeting, Mr. Crawford," the boy called out. "Hope everything works out for you." Then they disappeared inside, leaving Sam alone with his thoughts and the steady rhythm of rain on the wagon roof. He sat there for a long moment, staring at the simple building where these amazing children lived. Through one of the windows, he could see warm lamplight and the shapes of people moving about. Probably Sister Margaret welcoming the children home, making sure they got into dry clothes. Sam clicked the reins and guided Thunder toward the business district, his mind churning with unusual thoughts. The meeting with the government officials was in 20 minutes, and he should be focused on his presentation, on closing the deal that would secure his ranch's future. Instead, he found himself thinking about 3 orphaned children who had everything to gain and nothing to lose, yet had asked for nothing. The government office was a large brick building in the center of town. Sam pulled up in front, noticing with satisfaction that despite everything, he was going to be on time. The makeshift wheel had held perfectly, better than perfectly, actually. It had gotten him here safely and on schedule, which was more than his expensive custom-made wheel had managed to do. Inside the office, Sam went through the motions of his presentation. He displayed his leather goods, talked about his breeding programs, explained his ability to meet the cavalry's needs. The officials were impressed, asked the right questions, and by the end of the hour he had secured the contract he'd worked months to arrange. But as he shook hands with the government representatives and accepted their congratulations, Sam felt strangely empty. This should have been the peak of his professional life, the deal that would cement his reputation and secure his financial future. Yet all he could think about were 3 children who had worked in the rain without expecting anything in return. Walking back to his wagon, Sam paused in front of St. Mary's again. The building looked peaceful in the late afternoon light, smoke rising from its chimney, warm light glowing in the windows. Somewhere inside, Jake, Molly, and Tommy were probably helping with dinner or doing their lessons, living their simple lives with a richness of spirit that Sam's wealth couldn't buy. For the first time in 3 years since Eleanor's death, Sam Crawford felt a stirring of something beyond ambition and gathering wealth. Those children had reminded him that there was more to life than contracts and profits, more to being human than what you could afford to buy. The contract signing had been completed by late afternoon, but Sam found himself unable to leave Silver Ridge. Instead of heading back to his ranch as planned, he took a room at the hotel and spent the evening walking the quiet streets, his mind wrestling with thoughts that wouldn't let him rest. Every time he tried to focus on his business success, he saw 3 children working in the rain, refusing payment for their kindness. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, the storm having passed through the night. Sam rose early and made his way to the hotel dining room, where he struck up conversations with the locals over breakfast. What he learned about St. Mary's Home for Children only deepened the strange restlessness he'd been feeling since yesterday. "Sister Margaret does her best," explained Mrs. Patterson from the general store, "but it's hard keeping that place running on donations alone. Those children work harder than most adults I know, and they never complain about having so little." Dr. Henderson, who had hired the children the day before, nodded seriously. "Fine youngsters, all of them. Jake's got a natural way with animals. Molly can fix anything you put in front of her, and Tommy, well, that boy could charm the scales off a snake, but they deserve more than just getting by." After breakfast, Sam walked slowly towards St. Mary's, his decision becoming clear with each step. The building looked different in the morning light, not just humble but in need. Paint was peeling from the shutters. Some of the roof shingles were missing, and the front steps sagged slightly under years of use. Sister Margaret answered his knock. a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and work-worn hands. She looked at Sam with polite curiosity, taking in his expensive clothes and the nervous energy that seemed to come from him. "Sister Margaret, I'm Samuel Crawford. I believe 3 of your children helped me yesterday when my wagon broke down." Her face lit up with understanding. "Ah, you're the gentleman they told me about. Jake, Molly, and Tommy came home so excited about helping you fix your wheel. Please come in." The inside of St. Mary's was clean and well organized, but Sam's experienced eye could see the signs of making do with very little. Furniture was mismatched but carefully kept. Children's artwork covered walls that needed fresh paint, and he could hear the shuffle of many small feet in rooms that probably held more children than they were designed for. "Sister." "I need to ask you something important," Sam said, his voice unusually hesitant. "Those 3 children, Jake, Molly, and Tommy, what are their chances for adoption? I mean," Sister Margaret's expression grew thoughtful and slightly sad. "They're wonderful children, Mr. Crawford, but finding families for older children is challenging. Most folks who come looking want babies or toddlers. Jake's 14, which makes him practically a man in most people's eyes. And the 3 of them are so close, almost like siblings. It would break their hearts to be separated." Sam nodded slowly, pieces of a plan forming in his mind. What if someone wanted to adopt all 3? What would that require? The nun studied him carefully. "Mr. Crawford, adoption is a serious commitment. These aren't just any children. They're amazing, but they've also been through hardship. They'd need a stable home, someone who understands that love isn't something you can buy." "I understand that," Sam said quietly. "My wife Eleanor and we always wanted children," but he trailed off, then straightened his shoulders. "Yesterday, those children gave me something I didn't know I was missing. They reminded me what it means to help someone just because it's the right thing to do." Sister Margaret was quiet for a long moment. "They're at school right now, but they'll be back this afternoon. Would you like to speak with them? This decision needs to come from their hearts as much as yours." Sam nodded, feeling a nervous excitement he hadn't experienced since courting Eleanor decades ago. "Yes, I'd like that very much. But sister, there's something else. This place needs work, repairs, improvements. If you'd allow me, I'd like to help with that too." The nun's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Crawford, what exactly are you proposing?" Sam smiled, feeling more certain than he had about anything in years. "I'm proposing to give those children a home, and to make sure this place can keep helping others like them for years to come." That afternoon, Sam waited nervously in Sister Margaret's small office as the sound of children's voices filled the hallway. School had just ended, and St. Mary's was alive with the energy of young people returning home. When Jake, Molly, and Tommy appeared in the doorway, their faces lit up with surprised recognition. "Mr. Crawford," Tommy exclaimed, rushing forward. "Did your meeting go well? Did the wheel hold up?" "It did indeed," Sam said, standing up with a smile. "Better than I could have hoped. In fact, that's part of why I'm here." Sister Margaret gestured for the children to sit down, her expression gentle but serious. "Mr. Crawford has something important to discuss with you 3. Sam looked at each of their faces. Jake's careful maturity, Molly's smart curiosity, Tommy's open excitement, and felt his heart swell with a feeling he hadn't experienced since Eleanor's death. "Yesterday, you 3 did more than fix my wagon wheel. You reminded me what it means to be part of a family, to help each other without expecting anything in return." The children looked at each other, sensing the seriousness of the moment, but not yet understanding where it was leading. "I've been alone for 3 years now," Sam continued, his voice growing stronger with conviction. "My ranch is successful, but it's been empty without people to share it with. I've been thinking that maybe you 3 might consider giving an old rancher a chance to be your family." The room fell completely silent. Jake's eyes widened. Molly's hand flew to her mouth, and Tommy looked back and forth between his friends and Sam as if he couldn't quite believe what he'd heard. "You mean?" Jake started, his voice barely above a whisper. "You want to adopt us? All of us?" "If you'll have me," Sam said simply. "I know I'm not young, and I know I've got a lot to learn about being a father, but I promise you this, you'll never want for anything, and you'll always have a home at the Double Eagle Ranch." Tommy was the first to move, jumping from his chair into Sam's arms with a joyful shout. "Really, we can stay together? We can have a real family?" Molly was crying now, tears of happiness running down her cheeks. "Mr. Crawford, are you sure? We're just orphans from St. Mary's." Sam knelt down to her level, his own eyes getting misty. "Molly, you're not just anything. You're three of the finest people I've ever met, and I'd be honored to call you my children." Jake, always the protective older brother, stepped forward with typical seriousness. "What about our chores here? Sister Margaret needs us." Sister Margaret laughed through her own tears. "Jake, my dear boy, Mr. Crawford has also generously offered to help fix up St. Mary's. We'll have plenty of help, and you three deserve a real home." Over the following weeks, the change began. Sam moved the children to the Double Eagle Ranch, where they were amazed at having their own rooms, regular meals, and all the space three energetic young people could want. Jake discovered he had a natural gift for training horses. Molly became invaluable in the ranch workshop, and Tommy appointed himself chief morale officer, bringing laughter to every corner of the property. True to his word, Sam also paid for major improvements to St. Mary's. The building got a new roof, fresh paint, modern plumbing, and expanded facilities. More importantly, his donation set up a fund that would keep the orphanage running for generations to come. 6 months later, as Sam sat on his porch watching his 3 adopted children race their horses across the pasture, he marveled at how completely his life had changed. The government contract had been successful, but it paled in comparison to the joy of having a family again. Jake called out something to Molly, who laughed and made her horse go faster, while Tommy shouted with delight as he tried to keep up. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Jake raised his glass of milk in a toast. "To second chances," he said seriously, "and to finding out that family isn't about blood. It's about choosing to love each other." Sam raised his own glass, his heart full to bursting. "To the best broken wagon wheel that ever happened to me," he replied, "and to 3 children who taught an old man that the greatest wealth isn't what you own, it's who you get to come home to." Outside, the Arizona sunset painted the sky in beautiful oranges and purples, casting a golden glow over the Double Eagle Ranch, where 4 souls had found exactly what they'd been searching for all along. If this story spoke to you, like the video, share your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe for more tales of courage and grit of the West. Another story's waiting, right here on your screen. Ride steady, partner.